Welcome to Bearing It All with Rose and Crystal.
Where the conversations get real, emotions run raw, and nothing is filtered.
Buckle up, because we're bearing it all, deep diving into everything from motherhood to mental health and everything in between. We want to get to know you, each other, and our bodies, and things are going to get spicy.
Real spicy. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it.
Today we are pumped to have our next guest, the inspiring, talented and multifaceted human, Ashleigh King. Ash is the official choreographer for The Jungle Body, an amazing dancer with plenty of moves that we could definitely take some tips from. Just the fact that they are dancing today is amazing, as in 2021, Ash's whole life changed. They had to learn to walk again, let alone dance, after an emergency hospital visit turned to receiving a diagnosis of transverse myelitis and MS. Ash is one determined and resilient person. From navigating their sexuality and gender, Ash identifies as non-binary, a mum to 7-year-old Kenzie and one pampered pooch, Harry, to finding love, recently marrying Rosie, and having to regain their sense of self, independence, and coping with a disability. It's an inspiration to watch their journey and to know them. Thanks so much for being here today, Ash.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So there is like 1,000,001 questions we could sit and ask you today. Your story is, you've just had a wild ride over the last kind of few years, and there's so many different things that we could delve into, but we kind of want to start at the beginning. Like, tell us a bit about your life, like from the beginning a bit. Like, we want to know, obviously you were married to a man. How long ago was that?
So Rosie and I have been together for almost 6 years, so just over 6 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So tell us a little bit about that. And obviously we've had a few people make comments at you that have not been very nice, and I'd love for you to delve into that a bit more and just kind of explain how things went down the road of like marriage, after marriage, and then how you met Rosie.
Yeah, so I met my ex-husband very young, and there was a bit of an age gap, and all I ever wanted my whole life was to get married, have kids, that kind of vibe. And when I was younger, so in the 90s and the 2000s, you know, I knew that there was such a thing as being gay. My mum played softball, so like full of gays. One of her best friends years ago was lesbian, so I knew it was a thing, but it wasn't as common for them. Well, they couldn't get married at that time. Yeah. And it wasn't as common for them to have kids. And if it was usually quite a hard, lengthy process. So I've always identified as bisexual. When I had MySpace, it said bisexual, and I would have only been 12, 13, 14. So I've always known that I enjoy looking at women. You know, at the time it was, and men too. But looking back, I think it was kind of a safe option, because I was like, no, all else fails, I want to get married, I want to have kids. So then I met, my ex-husband when I was just out of school, and we were together, and then we were engaged, and that was it. We got married, had my daughter. And then I had followed Rosie for quite a while online. We'd met at a Jungle Body event, and then we kind of just fangirled over each other on Instagram. And then we'd started talking, and it was this weird, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't want to be like love at first sight, but it was this weird instant connection.
I was going to ask that. I was like, was it a feeling?
It was a feeling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a feeling of like, oh, I just want to be with you. It was just like, whoa, the way you make me feel is something I've never felt before. You know, I love, and we had the conversation, and she was in a relationship, and she was like, oh, you know, but I have a boyfriend. And I said, look, I love my husband, got, you know, my child, that's it. But when I walked away from that, I was like left with this feeling of, well, hang on, why don't I feel like that?
Yeah.
So I did. I had to do a bit of soul searching, and I realised like maybe you are gay. Maybe you've just kind of not settled, because he's an amazing man. We're still very good friends to this day. He's the best dad I could have ever had chosen for my child. Yeah. We always joke, he's a very good ex-husband. Yeah. And I say to people, like, pick your husband based on going through a custody battle with them, because if they're an awful person, and if you know that they're a spiteful person, or that they're going to be like that, there's always a chance, right? Shit goes wrong in life.
A lot of marriage breakups, they end in a shit show, don't they?
Yeah, absolute shit show. And when kids are involved, you're going to be tied to this person for life, whether you are with them or you're not with them. So I picked a very good dad, and I picked a very good ex-husband. and he was
Was
very
there a
supportive.
Yeah, I was going to say, was there a level of understanding as well with him? Because he already knew you were bisexual when he met you.
Yeah.
So when you had those conversations, I mean, obviously there's going to be a level of hurt.
Absolutely.
But was
he
there
devastated,
also
and I was devastated because there was nothing fundamentally wrong with my marriage. Like for me, it was going to be forever. Like there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were, almost 10 years into our relationship. We'd had our daughter. We were planning on having more. Like that was how it was. And so, of course, there was hurt. And a lot of, I think, the hurt, especially with my family and friends, didn't come from, like I never got any backlash for being with a woman. It was more that they were hurting because he was a part of my life since I was a teenager.
So they were kind of mourning that relationship.
Yeah. And I think once they saw that him and I are okay, we're not at each other, it's not affecting Kenzie, they were like, okay, this is fine. He's still come to family dinners. I'm still very, with his family. So, yeah. But he definitely was understanding. I think more so understanding because it was a woman. He realised like this isn't something he can give me. This isn't a direct competitor to him. It's not something that's just going to be he can fix or he can change or he can work on. This is who I am. This is
This is a feeling you can't change within yourself. So it hurt, but it was accepting in that sense, which is actually quite beautiful in that way.
And I had really kind of stifled a lot of who I was, not so much at the beginning of our relationship because I was who I was, but definitely once I got engaged, once I got married, especially once I'd become a mum, I kind of was like, oh, I don't want to embarrass him or I don't want to embarrass her. I need to just be dressed as a woman. I remember having a conversation about a jungle body ball and I was like, I'm going to wear a tux. And he was like, then I'm not going with you. And I was like,
I did want to ask about this.
Yeah, I was really like,
you're very feminine looking prior to you're beautiful. I mean, you're just blessed with luscious hair. Yeah. So I think I've been to, I went to a jungle body class and first saw you when I didn't know who you were. Yeah. You wouldn't have known me for a bar of smoke. I couldn't dance. I was hiding in the back. And you had your hair in this luscious, like it was piled on the top of your head and you let it out at the end of the class and it was just a mane.
Yeah.
And you were very feminine looking.
Yeah.
And I suppose, did you feel that you had to sort of have that? Yeah. You had to sort of portray, because I'm a mother and a wife, I have to sort of look like this, the pressure.
And I'm a dancer, and so I've done calisthenics my whole life. And so being in that environment also, I think I was like, well, it's a women's only sport. I can't just, rock up as a man or as in a masculine, like I have to be, a little bit feminine. I'm getting on stage in sequins and glitter and lace and
face full of makeup and all of those things.
So it was kind of like this weird like dynamic inside of me, and I did really shut it down. I have wanted to have short hair since I can remember. And
can I tell you something though?
What?
That first photo when you cut your hair, I did not stop staring at it. I was like, Ash.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was so liberating.
Yeah.
You with short hair. I think I messaged you going like, this is the best version of you.
Yeah.
Like
it made sense. It was very, I'm going to say it was hot. Like it was,
I was like,
sorry, Rosie, not
hot.
sorry, but it was.
Yeah.
You just looked free.
Yeah. Well, Rosie really struggled with it at the beginning because she loved my long hair.
Yeah.
And it also comes from like my whole life. Everyone's like, you can't cut your hair. You can't cut your hair. I'd kill for hair like you. Like you've been blessed with it. You got to keep it. And so I literally kept my hair long. I suffered with headaches because it was so thick.
Yep.
It was always matted and knotted because I always used to say I was a terrible girl. It was so bad. Like I just didn't know how to be a girl. And all my friends would be like, doing hair. I don't even know what the things are.
Look, if anyone hasn't seen Ash's hair before, you need to go and have a look.
on one of the boxes at the salon.
Mermaid hair.
Yeah, mermaid hair. She modelled for mermaid hair and her hair is just...
There's actually a really funny photo.
Ridiculous.
Rosie put it up for my birthday. It's about 3 or 4 photos in. And I did a photo shoot, the first photo shoot for mermaid hair, the long waves, was ridiculously long at that point. And I was actually booked in to cut it a month before. And my boss, who's also my best friend, owns mermaid hair, and she was like, I will pay you not to cut it. She's like, I need you for the shoot and then you can cut it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did one recently for them as well with my short hair, and they put it up and people were like, oh, it's like Barbie and Ken. And then when they realised it's the same person, they were like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Barbie can be whatever she wants to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was wild. And it was beautiful. But I get the whole cutting the hair thing. I feel I cut my hair off. I cut my hair off after I had my last two, like quite short. I've always had long hair like I have now. And it felt like free.
Yeah.
I knew there was a longing to do it.
Yeah.
For no other reason that it just felt like a weight and a part of me that was connected. I cut it right off. Hated it. I love having long hair. See, I feel myself when I have long hair, but
whereas I cut mine and I was like, this is me. This is who I am. Like I feel more myself than I ever have.
Yeah. But
we
I
actually had this conversation with our hairdresser. Just got it done 2 days ago, and Rosie was getting a chop, and it was quite emotional.
Yep.
And she was like, oh, I don't know why I'm so. And we were like, your hair holds so much of your trauma, and you know that hair has been with her in the last 12 months through some pretty awful, you know, emotional roller coaster. So it's not just cutting off your hair, it's cutting off all those memories and starting afresh. And it does. And that's what it felt like for me when I cut it. I was like, this feels like I've let go of all the pretending of who I'm trying to be. And I'm like, I can just be me. And I love it.
Yeah, I feel that to my soul when it comes to hair. And I think a lot of people will relate with hair because we always cut our hair like after we have a baby or like big life event. And for me, those last two, like after having the two last ones, that's how I felt. I was like, it needs, I don't know why, but it needs to all go as much as possible. And it felt good.
I think a lot of people hide behind their hair as well.
Yes.
You see people, we've been watching Maps and there's a girl in there with really long hair and you can tell that there's a lot of, like, she just wants to be invisible. And it's like her hair's giving her that safety blanket.
Yeah. And yours was actually suffocating you.
Yeah. I think mine was like my tie to being feminine.
Yep.
It was like you've got long hair. If you put your long hair down, you're doing okay. You're looking like a girl. Like, whereas inside I was like, I feel ridiculous. But it's like, no, you're blending in as long as you got your long hair. So cutting it for me was like, you're not hiding anymore. This is who you are. Like your hair is finally catching up to, your insides.
I'll never forget I went to an event. I think it was for Glamour Nail Bar, and you came wearing this suit, like these amazing shoes, I'll never forget, and your hair, and I was just like, I want to go and buy a suit. And I don't mind wearing a suit, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like suits are so powerful.
So powerful.
But I remember seeing you and being like, man.
Yeah.
Like
It's
that look
so
is
freeing.
Oh.
I remember the Jungle Body Ball. So the Jungle Body Ball the year before, my ex-husband was like, well, I'm not going. And I was like, oh, shit, okay, better wear a dress. And I look back at those photos of me in that dress and I'm like, ugh, you
and you probably
look
felt so
awful. I was
unhappy.
so uncomfortable and
You'd be
unhappy.
able to see it.
You can see it in every photo. And then the year after when I was with Rosie and I wore my suit and I was like, I can dance, I can move, I can breathe. I don't have to wear heels. I'm a tall person. I hated wearing heels because I was like, I'm already tall. I don't need to be taller.
She can do the WAP dance.
Yeah. Do the limbo.
Yeah.
Like,
Feel free. Feel yourself. Feel yourself.
Yeah.
That brings me to the sexual identity. So when you met Rosie initially, how did you identify? And how did Rosie identify?
Probably both bisexual,
Yeah.
but in heterosexual relationships.
Okay.
But she was the same as me. We'd both kind of like explored with women over the years. We both had that, but we'd never been in a relationship with a woman.
Okay.
And probably both partly because like she grew up in a very Catholic school, didn't really know that you could even be with girls. And then I knew you could, but again, it was that like, I want a baby, I want to get married, so this is how I have to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is the path.
Yeah.
Okay. So then at what point, because obviously when you first started your relationship with Rosie, your pronoun was she.
Yeah.
At what point did you know that you wanted to identify as non-binary? Do you know?
Do you know what? When I met Rosie, I didn't even know what non-binary was. I don't think many people did. I don't think I'm not
wasn't as
saying
much
it's
a
not a
thing.
thing.
Yeah, I
it's
get-
always been a thing, but we just have a name for it now. And that's like because so many of older generations are like, oh, you're just making up names for things. I'm like, we have diseases that we have names for now that we didn't have 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're happy to recognize that. Like when we know better, we do better, right? But so
I think that's why this topic is like really important for
Yeah.
Rose and I to bring up, because there is so many questions around it, and there are a lot of like hate comments aimed at it, which I think it's just educating people now.
people are afraid of what they don't know, what they don't understand. And we are a very egocentric society in that we relate everything. I was reading an article from a psychologist recently. We relate everything to us and we want everything to apply to us. So this is why people have such strong opinions online, and you're like, this actually has nothing to do with you. Why are you making this about you? But it's because they try to fit it to them. And if they can't relate, they're uncomfortable. So for a lot of people, hearing like or educating kids about, queer identity, or people are like, oh, it's going to make them gay. You're never going to make someone gay. Nobody wants that drama.
I literally had this conversation last week with a family member. They were like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with kids being taught in school. And I said, I feel like that is the most important thing that they're taught in school. So then when they're growing up, they are educated on different, how people
Feel.
identified.
No one's going to actively seek out being a minority, right?
Yeah.
Because the reality is life is harder when you're a minority. So you're not going to be like, I'm going to pretend to be this. It doesn't work like
and
that.
it's like you wanted to have a family and you didn't think that was almost a choice. It was almost like I have to choose between my sexuality or a family.
Yep.
I think kids know. A lot of people we've met as well, friends and stuff have gone, I've just known I've never been attracted to men, ever. You don't just make that up.
You're not making it. What you're doing is you're allowing them to
Be themselves.
and feel like they are themselves. And it's the same. It's the same as gender expression, in that I'm not like trying to, turn kids in the playground into non-binary or trans, but for that little girl in the playground that just wants to go play football with the boys, wants to wear boys' clothes, doesn't feel like a girl, for her to be like, because that was me. I was like, I don't feel like a girl. I don't feel like, my friends would talk and I'd be like, what the actual, like, are we on a different planet? And I still get that in groups of women. I'm like, oh, I am not a girl, because my brain does not think like that. So for me, if I had one of the first people I saw was an online, someone on social media, and they're like, I'm non-binary, this is what it means. And I was like,
I need to do some investigation.
I think that's me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not a girl, but I'm not a boy. Like, I'm not trans. Because I knew what trans was. And I was like, I kind of had those thoughts, like, maybe I'm in the wrong body. Maybe I am a boy. And I really did go hard that way for a while, and kind of spiraled in like, okay, let's think about this. Let's think about what that would mean for me, my family. But then when I sat and looked at it, I was like, no, I'm neither. I'm actually neither. I'm not a girl. It's very obvious that I'm not a girl inside my brain, but I also don't want to be a boy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's not me, and I don't.
And
know
I
how
think
you
that's
feel.
the important part, where that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
I am
okay.
somewhere in between, and that's okay. And it's not giving it a label doesn't automatically be like, okay,
I'm fixed.
fixed.
And I
It just
think
is like,
don't you
I
find that
belong.
though-
I am. This is who I am, and I think that's the important part of. There's so many different ones, and that's what the older generation struggle. They're like, you can't. There's so many different things. I think the most important thing here is just to listen to what people are saying they feel and honouring that. So if this person's saying, I identify as this is who I feel I am, okay, that's who you are.
Yeah.
We don't have a right to tell people who they are or how they feel inside.
Exactly. It is harder, I think, for the older generation, and even we're older millennials.
Yeah.
I am anyway. Crystal, me and Crystal are on that older side of millennials. There was not as much social media. There was not as much talk about it, like you were saying in the 90s. You knew there were gay people. They couldn't get married. There were so many. It was almost like we just saw a pride parade once a year.
Yeah.
And that was sort of it.
Yeah.
It was like they existed, but it wasn't out and proud as much as I feel I love seeing now. I love seeing it. But it is confusing, and that's why we really did want to talk about it as well. Like, there's confusion around, I think people do want to accept it as well, or make sure that they're not stuffing up. And we were talking about this before, like I misgendered someone and my kids went, oh, Mum, they're not a she, they're a they, them.
Yeah.
And just it was so normal for them. It didn't seem like a big deal. They were just like, oh, you stuffed up. But they are growing differently because they're exposed to it.
Absolutely.
Because they've been taught the right way to, and it's almost so refreshing.
Yeah.
But it's also nice that we now need to be educated in the same ways. There's no, how am I trying to say this? Like, it's okay to
no
go
like
back.
crash course in
Yeah.
how
Like
and
they've already given the crash. They've already had the course.
yeah, they've grown up with that, and we are a more connected society. We are seeing everything, and for the people that are like, "Oh, we didn't have this in my day," yeah, you did. It just wasn't shared because you didn't have social media. You had like your nightly news bulletin that was focused on the war. Like it's not. It just wasn't. The whole coming out is just a bit barbaric, I was talking with a friend recently about in AFL how there's no openly gay AFL players playing in the big league, and there was in rugby league, and he was kind of made the example and the spokesperson,
that.
and that's such a big weight to carry because again, not everyone feels the same. Just because we're gay, we don't automatically like become robots and we all think the same and have the same feelings. So we still need to do better in that protecting his just. Whoever the first one is to come out, just being like, cool, welcome, that's it. We don't need to be interviewing him every night of the week. We don't need to be asking him if there's more in the league. Like, just let it go. Because then you look at the women's league and 80% of them are gay. And it's not a thing. It's just...
They don't make a big deal over
it's
it.
beautiful though. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That they can...
Yeah.
But
I also think as a community, I have a very different outlook on education, I guess. I think I've got a lot of friends who are very angry, and rightly so. They've been treated very poorly or they've been discriminated against. But I think we're not going to educate if we don't do it with love. I think any minority group, especially one that's so charged, it's very easy to just be like, you need to learn.
Yep.
You need to, it's up to you to learn. Well, yeah, but don't you want to tell them your side? Don't you want to have them empathize with you and your story? So it's like when I misgender people too. We're not immune to it. We don't just naturally get it right. But it's about acknowledging it. So if you do misgender someone, just being like, oh, sorry, and moving on. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't make them explain themselves. Don't make them feel weird. I think the only time I've ever got a bit annoyed is when I know someone's doing it on purpose or they're just being a bit of a dick around it. But
what, like you're in a conversation and they're purposely saying she or
you
her?
can tell, you can tell that, or they'll
purposely
say like,
doing
oh,
it.
I don't believe in that. And you're like,
Well, you don't have to.
okay, it's not Santa Claus. Like, you believe in, I'm a human. I am who I am. I'm telling you, this is how I feel.
I'm actually sad.
I'm actually right here. So like, whatever. And the same as like the older generation, my family, my photographer, the videographer for the wedding actually emailed us and she was like, do you want me to edit out all the times your family say she? And I was like, no, I don't, because that's how they know me.
Yeah.
They've had me as 30 years of Ash as a she, as our daughter, and it's probably not going to change, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't
You're not getting angry at
attach
them
to labels
as well.
like that because I'm also very comfortable in who I am. Call me what you want. Like, it is what it is. I understand people who have had to fight for who they are getting a little bit more upset, but I think we all just need to take a step back and be like, okay, this is a learning opportunity. Let's just be like,
That's
actually, these are my pronouns. Do you know what that means? Like, so yeah.
So I guess the next question was like, when you did change your pronouns, did you have that conversation with your family? How did they know?
Yeah. No, I haven't.
Okay.
And I haven't even really bothered.
Okay.
And I could, but I genuinely am not bothered by my family. They follow me on social media. They see it on social media, so no. But we've never had a full conversation about it, and that's because I'm not, like, it's not my sword to die on. I'm like, it is what it is. For a while, my pronouns were she, they, because I was like, I'm just going to ease on into it. I realized very quickly that was for other people, not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, no, I am going to go with it. If people get it wrong, that's fine. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to let it ruin my day or take up energy. I'm just like, actually, these are my pronouns. And I know that from the younger generation on, it's just going to be that way. And I find a lot of people online, my favourite argument ever is when people are like, oh, pronouns don't exist. I'm like, actually, we've been using pronouns
forever
since the beginning of language, and you actually have them. Like, that's my favourite thing.
It's on your driver's license.
I was like, is it?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not, but
Gender's on passport.
Yes.
but it's like, how do I refer to you if you don't have a pronoun then, mate?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, has Ken's asked any questions? Like, is she inquisitive about the whole thing or not really?
She's not really bothered.
Okay.
We've had conversations with her. Rosie's really good at it because Rosie kind of goes into fight for me with it a little bit, and it's sweet. I love that for her, but it's also probably a little bit her wrapping her head around it. And you know how sometimes if you teach something, you learn it better.
Yeah.
So we've had some really good conversations. Ken just gets it.
You're still mum.
I'm still mum, and she will, say things. We'll watch the show, and she's like, oh, "They're a non-binary too, mum." And she said some really cute things. Actually, we watched a footy game a while back, and she was like, "Mum, is this the girls or the boys?" And I was like, "It's the boys." She was like, "Okay." She was like, "Mum, is there a non-binary team?" And I was like, "Oh, no." I was like, "Maybe one day there will be. Who knows?"
Yeah.
But yeah, she gets it. Kids
Because
get
kids
it.
are so funny. Like,
I feel like they just naturally adapt though.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, cool. They see you for the person you are
Yeah.
and not for what the world, I think, sees you or wants you to
They're
be.
still very inquisitive.
Yeah.
Like the times that I've gone into school to like volunteer when she was in kindy, and one of the girls was like, "Why do you have two mums?" And Kenzie was like, "Why don't you?" Like, and she's also, when she was like really little, I remember her asking another girl in the playground, she was like, "Who's your other mummy?" And we were like, "Oh, no, not everyone has." And I think it's different for her because she also has a dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like if Rosie and I have a child now, that child won't have a dad, so it's a completely different dynamic to navigate. But I think kids are just like, "Oh, okay, sure."
Yeah, I feel like the kids need to know the questions. Like my daughter is so inquisitive and sometimes I don't even know like the answer.
Yeah.
Like she actually wanted to fight this kid at school because a little boy said that he was gay.
Yeah.
And some kids were picking on him. And then she was like going to fight them saying, "He's just human.
I love
He's
that.
like
That's
me and
beautiful.
you."
Yeah.
Anyway, she asked all the questions.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's okay to not know the answers.
oh, sometimes I'm like, "Babe, I don't know."
Yeah, but that is the best answer. I think a lot of parents lie and they do
Yes.
it to protect what they think is innocence, or they just do it because they don't have an answer or they're uncomfortable with the answer. So they'll lie about it.
Funny you should say
rather
that.
than just saying, "Hey, I actually don't know the answer to that. Let's find out together." That's one of the best things you can say to your kids to make their minds.
No, but it's when she
Grow.
asked me, "How do two men have a baby?" And I'm like, they need help. Yeah,
They just
like
happen.
those sort of questions. I'm like, I'm not going to lie to her and say, "Oh, it's magic." They just
No.
have a baby.
Because the reason I said funny you should mention this is I was taking my makeup off last night and Tut, my 4-year-old, was laying in bed and she told Craig out loud, she's like, "Babies come from lettuce leaves." And I nearly died. I said,
Who told
Craig,
you that?
what did she say? Craig was laughing.
Did Craig tell her that?
No, a kid at school. So Blake told me, this is not the girl's name, but that, the babies come out of lettuce leaves. And I was like, no, they don't.
So their parent is uncomfortable around the conversation of sex and where babies come from and has just made it up.
And we are not uncomfortable
That
around
kid
that
is going to be
topic.
very confused.
Our kid comes out, she knows everything.
I have always told her, I said, "No, Tut, you know where babies come from." Yeah, out of the vagina.
Yeah.
And I was like, exactly. And I'm like, I don't want her to think it's rude. And that's why I was like cracking up. I was like, what are the chances Tato comes out with that last night, that it comes out of a lettuce leaf?
Yeah.
My heart dropped because I'd prefer her to know and then learn the dynamics later. I don't go into like, I have called it a special hug. I was like, the mum and the dad, we have a little special hug, and then he's got like, his penis and there's the vagina, and then, I haven't gone into depth. She's 4.
Yeah.
There's also like
Age appropriate.
Age
Absolutely.
appropriate.
There's a really good book at Kmart that we bought years ago. I think it's called Where Do Babies Come From? And it's the most scientifically accurate book that I've ever found for kids. And it's Kenzie's favourite book. She'll always bring it out.
What's it called?
I think it's called
Where the babies come
Babies
from.
Come
I
From?
think they gave it to my kids in school when they
Yeah.
did the sex talk.
It's so fantastic. And she knows, it even mentions IVF. It
Yes.
mentions same-sex couples and sperm donation.
love that.
And so we've had that conversation with Kenzie because she'll be like, "Well, how do you make a baby?" And we'll say, "We need some help. We need a donor." We are all just a sum of our parts, right? So an egg and a sperm. And that's how life happens. That's how birds make babies, and that's how animals make babies. And they don't need to know.
Yeah, age
know, the
appropriate.
nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you do have glass dildos all over your house, don't you?
Yeah, we do. and actually, funny you say that because we've got a lot of hate for that over the years because people are like, it's age appropriate. I'm like, she actually knows what they're for too. She's not like, "Oh, this is just a toy." She knows they're adult toys. She knows that it goes in the vagina. Or she said something about a butt plug the other day and almost died. And she was like, "When I'm a grown up, I can do that if I want to. Hey, mum." And I was like, "Yeah, when you're a grown up, when it's, we've had some uncomfortable conversations Rosie and I about, when the time comes that all kids go through it. They're touching themselves because it feels good, right? And how we want to react. And it's just like, I know that feels good, but this is something we do in the privacy of our own room. So feel free to keep doing it, but just not in public living
And
spaces.
those people, though, that are having a go, it's like, mate, what our kids are watching on the internet or what they're listening to in the school grounds, I can guarantee it's much worse
It is.
than what we're educating our kids
But
on.
also misinformation.
Yeah.
In all regards, around sexuality, around sex.
If they're learning it from their friends, they're learning it wrong. And they're learning dangerous things that, A, lead to bad things happening to teenagers, or B, it leads to women or men being so shut down around their sexuality and having trauma and need help in their adulthood rather than just being like, do you know what? I vividly remember I must have been year 6, and we had this company come in to teach us sex ed, and they took the boys outside and the girls stayed inside.
We did too.
And the girls learnt about periods, and the boys came in and they learnt about masturbation and wet dreams. And I remember being like,
Where was our masturbation chat?
are we not meant to do, are we not allowed to do that? And I think it's so equally important to teach girls that they are allowed to have pleasure and they're allowed to masturbate and they're allowed to touch themselves. It's not just boys. And also boys need to learn about periods, because if they're going to be a husband one day, they're going to be a total jackass that is just like, don't want to hear about it, don't want to know. Like,
I've already had that chat with Levi.
yeah.
It's got to be open.
My friend's son, she sent him to high school with a little bag, just as she would send her daughter with tampons, pads and condoms, all 3. And she said, it's good for you to hold them too, because if you have a friend that's a girl or a girl that's desperate, you've
that's
got one.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
It takes the stigma out of it.
Yeah.
It still does happen. I think they still separate them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my 13-year-old, they still separated them. And that kind of makes me sad, because I do, like you were just saying, I really would love the boys to feel comfortable around those chats.
Yeah.
That, periods are how you actually, one day your wife or partner, if that's the way that, you're going, is going to have a baby, and without a period.
Yeah. Or even if you're not. Like, I've got gay friends who now have a daughter and they're like,
What do I do?
what the, like, I don't know. Like, so it's super important. And Kenzie knows exactly what they are. Nothing is off limits. We're obviously not like, you go try it. Like, that's not going to happen.
Do you know what
when
the beautiful
she's a
thing is,
teenager,
though?
then we're able to have that conversation to be like, if you feel like doing that, here you go.
She's actually going to be such a confident woman growing up because of all of those things that you guys have taught her. She's in the known of it. I feel like the kids that are sheltered and told that babies come from lettuce leaves, they're going to get a shock when they find out. They're going to be like, what do you mean babies come out of my vagina?
I know.
They're also the kids that get pregnant as teenagers on the first go because they think you can't get pregnant on the first try.
Because it comes out of a lettuce leaf, obviously. I don't have a lettuce in the house, so we're fine.
I feel like that telling your child it comes out of a lettuce leaf is more
lazy
disappointing.
I couldn't stop. I won't lie. Like, I was giggling so hard. And then she was more convinced that I was lying after all that. And I was like, this has undone so much work. Yeah. So we had to sit there and be like, no, let's go over this again.
We had actually...
Poor little Blake
very
is going to
early
find out
on,
today.
Kenzie threw some shade at us, which was in the back. And she was like, something about marriage. She was like, no, Mum, girls marry boys. And I was like, oh, what? and she was adamant. She was like, no, girls can't marry girls. Girls can only marry boys. And she was and we were like, this little homophobe in the back. What the actual? No, Kenzie.
Where did that come from?
And she's very like, I've had to school this kid because she was like, no, girls can't play football. And I'm like, oh my God, I play football. Like, what the actual? She's like, it's just in her.
But it happens so fast in the school system as well, because I was a huge tomboy.
Yeah.
I grew up with my brothers and my cousins. I wanted to be exactly like them. I hated wearing dresses. I played footy. Yeah. I was tougher than them. I could beat the crap out. Yeah. I was stronger than them and I loved it. Yeah. I've always been athletic. I believe a lot of my body issues and acceptance came from not accepting that was okay, that I should have been more feminine, that my body should have been more curvy, that I looked too muscular. Yeah. I looked too masculine and I was acting too masculine and I was constantly told, act like a girl, go inside and paint your nails. Yeah. My dad has actually said that to me. Yeah. I've talked to him about that now and he didn't do it in a mean way. He was just like, I don't want you to be looking... he was worried.
Yeah, he was trying to protect you from what other people would say or do. And that comes from how they were parented.
Exactly.
And the patriarchy, which is, the buzzword of the decade, but it's true. We were told that we have to do it like this, and if we're not, it's wrong, and it's shouldn't be
and
like
I think
that.
that's also important because I feel so feminine and I feel so comfortable with my sexuality, but you're also allowed to. I love sport and I love being strong and I loved hanging out with the boys and it felt very comfortable. Also that it's okay to be yourself and that sexuality and your gender are completely two different things.
Absolutely.
You don't have
I'm
to
having this
present
issue
a
with
certain way.
Natalia at the moment because she only wants to wear baggy t-shirts and bike shorts. And so when we go out to an event, my husband's like, put on a dress. And she's like, I don't want to wear a dress. I don't like dresses. And I'm like, can you just let her be comfortable in whatever she wants to wear?
Yeah.
If that's bike shorts and a dressier top or a dressier t-shirt. But
also, you can also ask her to be like, do you want a suit? Do you want to go and buy they're things I wish I had the opportunity to do because I was always like, a dress. And actually someone posted in a group I'm in recently, they're like, I'm getting married, all my kids are bridesmaids, but I've got one daughter refusing to wear a dress and she's just being difficult and she's blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what about your son? She's like, he's wearing a suit. She wants to wear a suit too. And I'm like,
Do it.
let her.
why would you say no? Like, why would you want her to feel uncomfortable? What is the big deal? And at the end of the day, the big deal is she doesn't want to answer questions if people are like, oh, why is she wearing a suit? Like,
But why does that automatically how we dress have to equal
exactly right.
what we are?
Exactly right.
So yeah, that's really important as well. I'm glad we went down that. But let's go back to you have recently married
Yeah.
to the love of your life.
Yeah.
Look at that face. Immediately
I'm still in the bubble from our wedding.
the smile has hit ear to ear.
Yeah.
Finding love. Did you ever think you would find a love like you have at the moment? Like, did you think it was possible? Like you had the connection.
No. I had a very good marriage and I was very happy in that. But now having this, I'm like, I don't think many people experience this because people don't talk about it. Like you hear about it in like movies or poetry or stuff, but you're just like, ugh, you're making that up.
So you were happy in your marriage, but you weren't like love, like deep.
Yeah.
Like you were like, I'm
I
happy.
definitely loved him, but it was a safe
Yes.
love. It wasn't risky love. It wasn't like, I always used to say like, we used to joke because he was 13 years older than me. So we used to joke. I'd be like, well, you're going to die first one, you know. And when that happens and I'm alone, I'll marry a woman. Like it was always a joke. And there was always this like after. It's not I was thinking it and wanting it, but there was that thought of what would I do after. Whereas with Rosie, there's no after.
There's
There is us and then there is hell. And I don't want after. There's no other thoughts. So
I know during your wedding vows, Rosie said, or was it you? I think it was Rosie that said she felt like her soul recognized you.
Oh.
Yeah, it was. It was literally like, you are who I'm meant to be with. It's like we've found each other in past lifetimes and we'll find each other again. Because this is how it's meant to be.
Goosebumps.
I know. I love. Yeah, there's no after me and Craig. That's the thing. That's why I wanted to ask this question is because it's always okay to see people hating on their husbands or wives or whatever partners on socials, in the media, like it's a ha-ha joke.
Yeah.
But it's almost more uncommon to be in love. They're like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah,
Like
you're pretending.
Oh,
It
it's
can't
like-
all be sunshine. And it's not all
It's not.
sunshine and roses. There's still definitely.
But it
we've
does
had
exist.
a hell ride. But like not once have I ever, I don't know, I don't, I used to, like my ex-husband and I, we used to fight. That was what it was. And Rosie and I fight, but I don't ever want to, and I don't ever want to stir her up, and I just want to fix it if we've had a miscommunication. And I don't want to I genuinely, I don't know.
Ash just said that they were in the love bubble, but you guys have been together 6 years.
Yeah, we have.
That's a big bubble. That's a beautiful big love bubble.
And there's been moments that it's like, all hell
Of
has
course.
broken loose. We've gone through grief. We've gone through like life being turned upside down. We've gone through step parenting a 2-year-old. Like it's been a lot, but we're still very happily in that bubble. Like I don't think there's not a point where we're like, oh yeah, just that's my wife. Like I'm not. I'm like, this is the greatest human I've ever known, and I'm like so excited to be married.
Do you know what too though? I feel like you guys are an inspiration.
Yeah.
Just the fact that people can look at you guys and be like, it's okay that I'm allowed to be like that as well, like with my partner.
But also that true love is possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It gives people hope.
And it might not be what you or want in life. We've got a few friends that are dating. Fuck that, honestly.
I don't know what to do if I
can't.
became single again.
I just genuinely want to.
It's like hell. I look at it and I'm like, thank God I do not have to do that, because that is hell.
Yeah.
But I look at them and they're like, I've got this, this is my list of prerequisites, and I'm all for that. You have to have non-negotiables. You have to be unwavering in your boundaries of what you will and won't tolerate. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes their non-negotiables are shit. And I'm like, your non-negotiable, like why? Why do you, because you might be blocking the door on your soulmate who has that one thing. Or
It's just about ebbs and flows and compromises and just, I think, giving people a go. So Craig and I had a conversation we were just talking about, obviously, lettuce leaves, meeting you today, talking with you today. And he said, like, what if that was me, that I decided I wasn't going to be, I didn't feel male anymore.
Yeah.
Would you leave me? And I was like, whoa, Craig is a very masculine, blokey bloke.
Yeah.
You've met Craig, you know Craig well. I was like,
You'd never had to think about it.
he's never posed that question. I was like, this is deep for you, babe. Like, he's not a deep person.
But do you mean if he wasn't masculine and blokey, or he wasn't?
No, he said
because you can still be a masculine, like he could still be masculine and also
not
a woman, like want
No,
to be.
yeah, he was like, what if I was he goes, I wanted to be
Yeah.
a female.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, would you still stay with me? Would you?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I would still be with you. I was like, 100%.
Your morals and who you are.
I said, it's you. I said, I think to a point, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, to a point I stopped seeing Craig, this is weird to say, I stopped seeing him as a man.
Yeah.
And
He's a human.
I only see Craig, like me and him.
Yeah.
The feeling he gives me, the person that he is. And we've been together 19 years this year.
And that's not to say it wouldn't be hard. And there's
No,
parts of
course,
of him that you would miss. And I think that we've had to navigate that because like Rosie will be like, but I really love when you had long hair, or she used to love when I used to do calisthenics, I'd come home from training and I'd wear my leotard. And she was like, I love that. And I'm like, I can chuck the leotard on.
You're like, anytime.
And you're like, it's in the wardrobe.
It's fine, So there was parts of my femininity that she did like. And I'm like, we can address that. Like we can play with that. And I also have friends that were lesbians, and now one partner has transitioned as a man and has had top surgery, and they always get questions like, but your wife loves you as a woman and loves your boobs, so they're going to miss that. And more often than not, the wives come out and be like, I actually just love them. I actually don't care.
Yeah.
Like if it's making them happier, of course there's going to be people that would be like, I really miss your boobs. Like, I really don't want you to have top surgery.
Yeah.
I really love that about you. And that is going to be a hard thing to navigate if one person doesn't want it and one person does, of course. But as long as you're willing to work through that and compromise and
Yeah.
That's
what I just thought it was such an interesting thing for him to say. He doesn't go deep. So I was like, what? I was like, who are you?
He was intrigued on the subject.
Yeah, he was very interested as well. And I was like, it is wild though that you actually you do eventually just see a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, you still are attracted to a male or female, whatever, or whatever that may be. But yeah, I was like, wow, Craig. I was like, that was really in depth even for me to think about. I hadn't actually put myself in that position. And I was like, no, I do love you. But I know that, some people would be non-negotiable. Some people would, and like you were saying, it would be very hard to, navigate some parts of that journey.
Yeah.
I think because there's so many moving parts.
There is.
But I think we also wanted to touch base. We could literally talk forever.
Yeah. So
forever
interesting.
with you.
Very multifaceted.
Yeah,
We-
she is. Did you like that word?
Whoever followed you on social or haven't followed you on socials may or may not have seen that you went through a really crazy time in your life where you were diagnosed with TM and MS.
Yep.
Watching it on the outside myself, I was like fearful. Like I was like, you had like something coming out of your neck, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was so invested. I was like watching, and I was just like, I felt so much emotions. But
Got hectic real quick.
oh my gosh, like tell us how did that even happen? Because
Like, what was
it literally went, I saw you in a hospital bed, and I was like, what?
And she was paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I literally was like, is Ash going to die? Like, I genuinely was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we felt that way too. So 3 years ago, basically this week, it was the end of Jan. I thought I kind of hurt my hip. I was a dancer, so I was like, yeah, whatever. It's just another injury. Went to my first training for the year and I just couldn't push past the hip pain, like trying to do my splits. And normally it's sore, but you can do it. But I couldn't go any further. And I was like, this is really weird. Fine, maybe I've pinched a nerve. It started to get worse it was just hip pain, just localized. So then I went to the chiro and he was like, oh, have you got any numbness? And I was like, oh, I have had a bit of like going in and out of numbness. I was like, I just assumed that I'd pinched a nerve and that was why. And he's like, look, I'm not going to crack you while you've got any numbness. You need to go and get an MRI. He's like, here's a referral for the doctor. And then so I was like, okay, I'll go to the doctor. And I was like, I don't want to pay $700 for an MRI. Just fix my pinched nerve. God. So then a few days went past waiting for my doctor's appointment, went into the doctor and I vividly, by that stage, it was numb a lot more. But again, I just thought it was this pinched nerve. And I got up on the hospital bed and he like lifted my leg up and he goes, hold it here and let it go. And it just dropped. And I was like, what the hell? Like I couldn't hold it there. And I was like, that's really weird. And he's like, and I'd started to develop this weird like nerve pain, but it wasn't too bad. It was just on my thigh. I was like, it's just, someone just needs to fix my back. It's all good. He said to me, if it gets any worse over the next 24 hours, go straight to emergency. And I was like, okay, sure. The next day was Saturday. I went to training. I had training all day, and by lunchtime I was like bent over. I couldn't lift my legs. Couldn't move it.
So was the pain in your leg that day, or
still in my hip, but my thigh, the nerve pain, and it was hot. So I was wearing shorts, just sports shorts, and I had to roll it up so it couldn't be touching. Anything just lightly touching my skin was horrific. I almost bopped Kenzie in the face because she came up and like hugged me, and I was like, get off me. It was horrific. Just got worse and worse and worse. So I went to the hospital that night. I could hardly walk. And by the time we were admitted into that hospital, like we were in the waiting room, it was a Saturday night. So of course it was just hectic. I literally couldn't feel either of my legs, couldn't walk. I had to get a wheelchair other than the pain in my thigh. And someone above was watching me because normally on a Saturday and Sunday they don't have radiographers at the hospital. They wait till Monday. So there was no X-rays or MRI person there. So they were like, oh, in the waiting room, they're like, we'll probably get you some painkillers, check it out, we'll send you home. You'll probably come back for an appointment on Monday. We were like, okay, whatever. And like, we weren't even thinking anything of it. We literally sat in the waiting room and Rosie was like, oh, when we leave, we'll go get a beer. And I was like, yeah, cool. I didn't leave for 4 weeks. So that's like...
From that day?
From that day. I was admitted. All it took was this one doctor to take me seriously, and he was playing around some very invasive tests. I remember, it's probably TMI.
No, never.
He was like, I need to do an internal in your butt. And I was like, okay, weird, but sure.
I wasn't expecting that,
drink
actually.
First.
Yeah.
And so he did, and he was like, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, where can you feel? And I was like, I can't feel it. And Rosie's like, are you joking? And I was like, I can't feel a thing. Couldn't feel a thing. And at that point, I had no feeling to go to the toilet. I couldn't push. I had no feeling. Couldn't walk.
You couldn't walk at this stage, but they were going to send you home. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, not at that
stage.
stage. At first, when they were kind of like, oh, it's a nerve, hip.
Okay.
Yeah. Once they did this, he was like, Then there was a major car accident. So they called in the on-call radiographer and they were like, we're just going to sneak you in there. And thank God, because...
It was worse than what?
It was worse. So I came out and I remember him coming in and being like, so there's inflammation on your spinal cord. It's called transverse myelitis. And I remember him saying like it could be linked to multiple sclerosis. And like it was not what we were expecting at all. So Rosie and I were just like, I beg your pardon? Like that's like a big disease. Like what the hell? And so they admitted me that night. Rosie went home distraught because it was after visiting hours. She was just a mess. Yeah. Fair enough. Like your partner can't walk.
She probably went on Google though.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Doctor Googled your life away.
I don't think she did. She's not really like that.
That's good.
But she just went home a mess because she was like, hey, I don't want to go home without you. I wasn't expecting to leave you there. I had nothing. I had and so then I'm lucky the on-call radiographer came in, and I'm lucky that only 6 months prior they had actually had a case at Charles Gardner, so they knew exactly what it was. It's incredibly rare. It's like 1 in 4 million people or something. And it's essentially inflammation on both sides of the spinal cord. So mine is at my T11 vertebra, right around my belly button. And it just looks like a little air pocket in my spinal cord.
Okay, does it develop or what?
Yeah, so there's slow onset and quick onset, and mine was, funnily enough, slow onset. There's some people, there was the guy that they had 6 months before was literally running down the coast and bang, numb, fall on his face, gone.
Wow.
I was thinking yours was quick, but it was over days.
Yeah, it was over about 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I first remember end of Jan was our first training, and Valentine's Day it was getting pretty bad. We stayed at a hotel and I remember just floating in the pool like this feels so much better off the weight. And then I think I went in a few days after that. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wild. So now is TM something that you live with? Is it something you live with?
Yeah, so TM is just it's inflammation on the spinal cord. Yeah. So yeah, I
Does it come back? Can it come back?
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
It can have. So basically, it's caused by my body has like it's sensed something coming into the body. It's gone to attack, and it's just attacked its own spinal cord.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
we still don't know, and we probably will never know what caused it. They think for me it's glandular fever. I've had glandular fever multiple times in my life. It's some kind of viral load that my body's trying to fight off, and it's just gone too hard. For some people, it could be the flu. For some people, it could be chickenpox. For some people, it could be a physical injury, like a car accident. For some people, it could be like a vaccine injury. Like it's just essentially something's happened to the body. The body's trying to fix itself and goes too hard. In instant, like it's not very common, it's very rare, but it's more common in people with MS because MS, the body creates the inflammation, tries to fight it. So they then did the testing, and then about 6 months later, I was diagnosed with MS. You have to have had multiple attacks to be officially diagnosed, but I have had the one attack and I have the banding that suggests that I do have it.
Yes.
So
moving forward, what does this mean with this diagnosis of having MS?
it's really unknown because it's so different. Every person experience is different, and there's all different types of MS. There's like really fast progressing, there's slow progressing. I am not medicated because I've only had the one isolated attack, and I don't really need it. Like I have no feeling in my left leg from just below the hip to the ankle. So that was in both legs, but while I was in hospital having the treatment, my right leg kind of came back, and then I had to learn to use it. So I've learned to walk again on the numb leg.
So right now your leg is still numb.
Yep.
We would never know. I just thought that your feeling came like you.
No, there's no feeling.
This babe just comes waltzing in.
Oh, I can feel goosebumps, which is really weird. I can feel goosebumps on the leg. That's the only thing. And I can feel my foot, which is very helpful for walking because at the beginning I couldn't feel my foot and it was very bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no feeling in the leg.
Wow.
Okay, and Ash is a dancer, the
Yeah.
official choreographer for
Yeah.
Jungle Body. So that's why I said at the start, I was like, getting that sense of independence and identity. And then how did that all change for you within yourself?
Yeah.
Having had that, you've gone into this, I think when you're in a couple, in a relationship, you're together, you're healthy, you're young, you're like, you got the rest of your life ahead of you. Like, how did that change your perspective on life?
Yeah.
How
Well,
did
we
it
had got
affect your-
engaged
Yeah.
like 2 weeks before. So it was like the biggest shit show you could ever imagine. So it was going to be my 30th birthday on the 2nd of Feb. And Rosie had planned this like party, like dinner with all my friends. A chef was coming in. It's all I wanted, just a nice dinner with my friends. And then the day before, that was meant to be the week after my birthday. The day before my actual birthday, we went into lockdown. Like Perth had 2 lockdowns,
Yes.
and one was the day before my 30th birthday. And I had planned to propose 2 days after my birthday.
Okay.
I had this big grand plan. I'd hired a photographer. I'd booked the tickets to go out to Penguin Island because when Rosie and I first got together, we sat on the bench in front of her house and you can see it. And I was like, oh, penguins. I was like, penguins mate for life. They present a rock to their loved one. And so I was like, I'm going to present a rock to my penguin. Like it was meant to be, we're going to go out. Yeah. And I hired a photographer, everything. Bloody lockdown. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like of all the weeks, what the hell? And so I had to cancel everything. And then I was really upset. And Rosie thought it was because like my birthday was ruined. And I was like, I actually don't. She just didn't know. I had all these plans. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to propose on my birthday. I'm just going to do it. On my 30th birthday, I couldn't think of anything better. I was like, I'm going to say, I want to have a really nice dinner. Let's get dressed up. So I did. We had a couple of bottles of champagne and proposed. So we were on this like high, and we had a week of just the two of us and Kenzie in and out from her dad's, of just living in this like proposal bubble with no outside world. So it was this amazing high, and then all of a sudden I can't walk. I'm in hospital for 4 weeks. Like it was just like, what the hell? bottomed out. And it was, I had those moments of like, that's my job gone. Because how can I do choreography? I can't even walk. Like, what am I going to do? I had moments of like, I was a calisthenics coach. I was coaching 2 teams and I was at the time competing. I had to pull out of everything. I just had this whole, like, this is my whole identity of me being active and all these things that is gone. But I think it actually kind of in a way drove me. Like if I was just in an office job, or I think I just would have been like, yeah, okay, it's not the end of the world. But I was like, I need this. I need to be moving. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to walk again. Like,
there was just no question in your mind.
No, and there was no question in my mind that I would one day walk again. I didn't think it would be probably as quick as I had. TM can be very aggressive, and there's a lot of people that never walk again or are paralyzed from the neck down, like depending where your inflammation is. And a lot of people that kind of give up. They get the diagnosis and they're like, oh, that's it. Yep. I'm in a wheelchair. Whereas I was like, I'm not going to – I was willing to accept it, and I had said to Rosie, I had this day where I was like, I just need to look at the worst case scenario in the eye and be like, I'm going to be okay. So I was like, do you know what? If I'm in a wheelchair, I'm going to create a wheelchair workout, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a disabled model. I had all these like things. I was like, I just had to look at it and be like, this is the worst case scenario for me. Okay, I can make that work. And from then on, I was like, I'm good, because if that's the worst case, I can do that. So
Ash, I just love that. Like I find that so inspiring, and I think this is the best this is what I always say, this is the best that I am today. Yeah. And what can I do with that? Yeah. And I was just sitting there going, that is just beautiful. I know it's not ideal, but the fact that you were already like, oh, I'm going to be a disabled model, I'm going to do, inclusive disabled workouts and things like that. And automatically your brain has gone to that best case scenario in the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it really taught me to be really resilient. I think I was already quite a resilient person, but I think it just kind of cemented that for me. And a lot of my friends and family were really struggling, Rosie included. Rosie really struggled, and fair enough. Sometimes it's easier to be the person in it than the person helping. I think that with birth, I think you've got control, whereas the partner, that, like, I can't imagine watching it unfold, and the person you love the most being in so much pain and not being able to do anything. So it's the same thing. Like, people will be like, oh, but Rosie wasn't even going through it. And I'm like, yeah, she was. And she had no control over it. She was like watching the love of her life maybe be in a wheelchair for the rest of the life.
She just wanted to take it all away for you, but she,
Yeah.
I remember that conversation where she was like, we live in a multi-story home. Like, how is Ash going to get around in a wheelchair?
We live in the worst home for someone who's in disabled. A wheelchair. And for the first few months, because I was determined to our bedroom is on the top level. Of course. And we have, even just to get in our house, there's concrete stairs. So like they came out and put this big rail in, and it was just the guy that got there, the OT, that was like, we're here to set up your house. And he walked in, he was like, the fuck?
Your house is insane and full of stairs.
And we were like, yeah, we're really settled on this house. But I literally, for the first week or so, we slept on the main level in the spare room. It was just easier. And then I was like, I'm done. I need to get to my bed. I want to get back to normal. I need to learn how to navigate it. And so I would literally go up and down the stairs on my butt. Like I would hang this leg over and I would go. And then there was a time where Kenzie would only go downstairs on her butt. Like, she would copy me.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just have to do. You just have to. There's no point me sitting here feeling sorry for myself, like miserable that I'm in a wheelchair, miserable that I've lost, because I'm like, yeah, I might have lost that, but look what I've gained. Like, I've gained this resilience, this new lease on life. Like, I was literally like, I am so lucky. I'm so lucky to be alive. I'm so lucky that I can learn to walk again. I'm lucky that we have the financial means, that Rosie can be by my side the whole time, and that I have the job that I have, that I don't have to give up my job and we don't have money. I'm so lucky that there was an on-call radiographer. I'm so lucky they knew what it was, that I went to that hospital, that I was straight on steroids, I was straight on this. Like, I'm lucky that I've got family, and my ex-husband, I was so grateful he just stepped in and took Ken, so we didn't have to worry about it. Like, I was like, I'm all of a sudden have all this gratefulness for very little things that I wouldn't have had before this.
Yeah.
You realise what's important in life as well.
Absolutely.
It really shows through. I mean, I just think it's an incredible story. I mean, it's something that you're going to live with as well.
Yeah.
But bring light around.
Yeah, I joke about it all the time.
I think I'm humour.
Yeah.
Humour is healing.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's been times where we're in bed and Rosie's on my left and I look over and she's stroking my leg. I'm like, how long have you been doing that? Because I can't feel it. She's like, oh, damn it.
you're like, I love that you're doing it, but
Or we've joked about getting like a full leg sleeve tattoo because I'm like, may as well.
yeah, I can do what I want to that leg.
Yeah. Except I don't. I always walk into things with this leg.
Oh, of course you do.
I'm like, can it just...
Do you get bruises on this
Yeah,
leg?
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you would just bump it and not
Yeah,
realise.
I actually recently had my dog ran past me with this big rubber toy and it hit the vein at the front and the vein must have like popped. And so it was this huge egg bruise. And Rosie was like, do we need to go get that checked out? And I was like, I can't feel it. So it's
We're good.
fine.
Well, it's things you got to get used to, but the tickling of the leg is a pretty funny one.
I do like that.
Poor Rosie. Well, I think we're going to start to wrap it up, but we've so loved having you on the potty today. I feel like if anything, people are going to get some sort of education from it. And I think one thing is like, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah. If you're coming from a place of general curiosity
Yes.
and love, I think it's never okay to ask about someone's genitals.
Yes.
Just in
Ever.
general.
I mean, would you ask anyone? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not okay to ask that. I think it's not okay to ask like, are you getting surgery or any of that? Because that for that person can be such a topic. But other than that, like ask the questions. If you're coming from a place of love. and a place of curiosity, that's all you can do.
So like could you give us like a little bit of advice? So for someone that maybe is listening who might be interested in like, we get this question a lot. I was telling you before we started that people have asked and said, look, I'm interested in girls or I have a partner, I'm with my husband at the moment, but I feel a longing that I don't feel right. And in the same way that you're saying, it's like, not that I don't love them, but I don't feel fulfilled.
I think sexual desires are, for some people, they're completely separate from their relationship and it's okay to acknowledge that. Communication with your partner is massive. I think you've got to have those conversations to be like, look, I have fantasized about women or I have, I love you and I don't want us to end, but there is this longing because your partner might be okay with that. There might be the opportunity for introducing another woman or having a separate playtime or, hiring a professional to do that, whether it's in your relationship or separate. Yeah. But if there's like, if you're not on the same page and they're like, no, then that's going to be a little bit more tricky. I think that's when you have to have some really serious conversations with yourself about who you are and what you desire more. But don't be afraid of it. We created a Facebook group called Girl Meet Girl, and we're just, this weekend is our first big meeting, like meetups, picnics, sunset picnics all around Australia. We've got a Gold Coast one, a Perth one.
Lovely.
And it's not just, we've got some really success stories of girls that have met on there and are now together. We've got one couple that just had a baby. We've got people that are just looking for friendships. We've just got people that are just wanting to test the waters to be like, is this something that I'm interested in? I think a lot of women have kind of shut it down, especially if they were quite bi-curious before they were in a relationship and then they get in their relationship and they're like, no, this is who I am. If you shut anything down, you're going to want it more, right? So you got to just look at it, am I suppressing anything? Am I denying myself something that I really want or a part of myself that I really am?
So this is all around there's different locations around the country. Yeah. We will definitely put this in the show notes and like links to all the pages that they can get this information. But I think that is really beautiful. And it's also a way, I suppose, of truly having a safe space where they don't have to worry if the other person is also curious as well with another female. They already know that everybody is.
And for some people, it's just that like acknowledging it. Yeah. So acknowledging, oh shit, I'm gay or I'm bisexual. There's a lot of women that have come into the group and we always tell people, just introduce yourself. Just be like, hey, this is who I am. This is where I'm at in my journey. You don't have to be looking for someone. You don't have to be commenting on other people's, but just acknowledging it's like a weight lifted off. Like quite often we haven't told anybody that that's how we're feeling. So just being like, hey, I like women. I find them attractive. I want to be sexually involved. It's kind of like, oh, that's out there. It's in a safe space. It's done. Cool.
Yeah.
It's like cutting your hair.
Yeah.
It's releasing the weight.
Yeah.
So to finish up, we know that you love a good potato.
I love potatoes.
So
And you're a bit of a foodie.
Yeah,
of a foodie.
I love food.
what is 3 things that you would do with a potato?
Straight away, I went to the gutter.
Yes, so did I.
I did. I was
really?
like,
I
with a
went
potato.
Dirty gutter potato. Yep.
No, I'm interested.
Actually, it's not a potato, but I went to our neighbours yesterday. She was signing Kenzie's passport forms, and she's like, I've started growing cucumbers. And I was like,
Dirty. See,
okay,
immediately.
sure. And she's like, here's a bag of these giant cucumbers. And I just laughed. And then I got home and Rosie's like, maybe we could use them as a toy. And I was like, oh my God. What the hell? No.
That's what
3
your neighbour
things,
was thinking
like my
too.
3 favourite potatoes.
Yes.
Okay, so we went to this new restaurant the other night called Six Head in Elizabeth Quay. And they had these like, I don't even know what they called them, kind of like hash brown things, but fancy. And they were covered in butter. So good. So
Like a
like
little
hash
hash
browns.
brown?
I love hash browns. I love mashed potato.
Classic.
Oh, that's really hard.
Come on, potato.
Are you a
Just
stuffed
chips,
potato?
I think.
Oh, I love a good stuffed potato.
I love a baked potato.
Oh, actually, I know what I want. Have you been to the Sunset Markets recently at Scarborough, and they do the spiral potatoes?
Oh,
On the stick?
Yes.
Yeah, and they do one that's got a sausage in the middle, and then it's got cheese sauce. That's my favourite at the moment.
So it's like one of those spirally potatoes on a stick?
Yeah, but it's
with a
wrapped
sausage.
around a sausage, and then it's got cheese sauce. You have to go get one.
All right. That sounds
So
like a
good.
celiac's deathbed. But
Yeah,
both of us, we'll risk it for the biscuit.
yeah.
I was like,
You
I
need to
would.
go try it. It's so good.
Oh, God, potato. Actually, I had someone say that they don't like cheese. And
Rosie
that they
doesn't
don't
like cheese. It's so weird.
Oh, no. Cheese is life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go to the toilet like 16 times
Yeah, same.
after, but I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a risk and a thing I'm willing to accept just
Yeah,
to
I'm
eat
not
it.
willing to give up. No.
No.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the potty today.
Thank you.
Again, we loved
Oh my
having
God,
you.
could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
I
I
know.
reckon.
We actually said 1 hour and we
Yes.
went over.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine.
And I feel like I haven't even like touched the surface.
No.
So
Yeah.
sorry, guys.
It's like a 10-part
Maybe
series.
this might be a part 2 coming soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, we'll see you soon. Make sure that you always look after yourselves.
And look after each other. Bye.
Bye.